Welcome to Built for Love, a podcast about dating with intention, loving with purpose, and navigating relationships with depth. Each episode, we break past what no longer serves us and get clear on what we truly need in love. Welcome to the path back to you, to love, to self, to truth. Because love isn't something we chase, it's something we're built for. Hey there, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to Built for Love. I'm your host, Javier Ortega, and today's episode is one that means a lot to me personally. I'm joined by someone who truly knows me like no one else in this lifetime. My best friend and platonic soulmate, Eddie Valdovinos. Eddie is not only a gifted hairstylist in the world of production in New York City, he's also a powerful tarot reader and someone I've had many lives with. He expands me every single day, and I'm honored that we get to expand each other through this conversation and now with all of you listening. This isn't just an episode about dating, it's about evolution, about what it means to grow as queer men in our 30s, to unlearn what no longer fits, and to rebuild our relationships with ourselves, with love, and with the world around us, and with intention. So we have these conversations all the time, but today we get to share it with you. So let's get into it. Eddie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me in front of the camera. I feel like we have so much like behind the camera that obviously this is all you're doing, but we bounce ideas back and forth so much, and
Right.
in all aspects of our lives, honestly, not just this,
yeah.
you know. So it's cool. It feels nice.
Yeah,
It feels right.
I mentioned in the red print, which is the very first episode, which was about a 9-minute episode for this podcast. I give him a shout out for being like the person that I go to for everything opinion wise. I'll be like, okay, so this is the cover that I want to put for the YouTube video. This is these are the questions that I'm asking. What are your thoughts? So he's like my right hand man. He's my unofficial manager. Really, we joke about it all the time. I'm super excited to have you on. I mentioned also in that first episode something that you mentioned. So he's a part of Collective 7, which is a spiritual account. So it's called Collective 7, and he does the tarot reading. So he's an incredible tarot reader. And at the beginning of every video, what do you say?
I say, if this resonates, please take it. And if it doesn't, simply leave it, because I promise that one of these messages will reach out to you in the time it's supposed to. I don't know how I came up with that, but it kind of like became like my little thing, and it stuck.
It did.
And yeah.
It's like on every one of his videos, which are great. I highly recommend that you see them. He does weekly videos, sometimes monthly videos for all of the zodiac signs. But I ended up saying that because it's also true for this podcast, right? This is going to be diving into gay dating, gay relationships, right? I did an episode with Yvonne where it was like on a straight man. So I find that I honestly do believe that if you were to listen to every episode, there's going to be some golden nuggets for you.
For sure.
I really do believe that. But if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. Another one of these videos will. So, diving into it, I do want to ask, so looking back at our 20s, by the way, before I keep asking, we've known each other since we were 16 years old. We went to high school together. And we've kind of just grown closer and closer throughout life. So It's been well over 15 years now.
Gosh,
so
yeah, it
I'm
has.
grateful. So, going back to the question, looking back at our 20s, we had pretty different journeys, I would say. What do you think has been the biggest shift in the way we now approach love and relationships in our 30s?
For me, one of the biggest factors was that, and this might sound a little cliche, but I was still finding myself. And what I mean by that is I was still finding myself as a gay man, because I was a late bloomer when it came to coming out. You know, I'd known I was gay since I could remember. I really could. And I didn't officially come out to sort of like everybody in my surrounding, including my family, until I was about like 25, 26. And so the first half of my 20s was, I mean, you know this about me, because we're very similar in this sense, but um, I for the longest time, like my longest running relationship has been like my career. We pour ourselves. I think part of it is cultural, being first generation Mexican American in the U.S. Like we find value in working, and I think there's something beautiful in that. But the double edged sword about that is we can allow ourselves to become consumed and get lost in our careers and what we have to show for. So the first half of my 20s was very much about that, graduating high school, like knowing each other, graduating high school. There was a lot of like spiritual sort of like work that I thought I was doing and I think I was doing because it set me up to who I am now. But all throughout high school, and then I graduated, and then I always wanted to be a hairdresser, and so then going to beauty school right after that, and then working in my first salon job, which was the same salon that you worked at, and so building that up and almost allowing myself to use that as an excuse and say, oh well, I don't have time to date right now because I'm working. But a huge part of that was, well, I don't have time to date because I haven't come out, and that's what I really want to do. And so once I did come out, the second half of my 20s was very much, okay, how do I do this? Like I was that 26-year-old gay guy who had never had a boyfriend, which that's not crazy because there's plenty. I mean, I'm sure you have met plenty of people plenty of gay men who have never had a boyfriend until well into their 30s. You know what I mean? But at the time, there's this sort of like unspoken pressure from the rest of the gay world, from the rest of gay men to be like, oh, you haven't had this kind of experience yet? You haven't done that yet? You haven't done this yet? Do you know what I mean? So I think the second half of my 20s was very much like trying to play catch up, which the motivation for that wasn't rooted in how is this going to build me up? How is this going to serve me? It was very much, how am I going to serve others, and how am I going to, but not in the most constructive way, but it's like, how am I going to like, give to others because I want to have that like badge on like my gay Boy Scout like sash. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that means I have to party a lot and I have to meet a lot of guys and I have to experiment with this, that, and the third. And I have to, do you know what I mean? It was a lot of that versus my 30s. It's now a lot of, if it doesn't serve me, if it doesn't resonate, I simply leave it, so it kind of comes back to that. So how about you?
So I would say, as you know, my 20s were completely in a relationship. Love has been like a big, for lack of a better word, like, no, not mission, but just purpose in general.
Right.
Like relationships have been so important to me. Prior to when I was in high school, I was in a 3.5 year relationship. Going into from about 16 to almost 20 years old. And then shortly after, pretty much from when I was 20 to 31, I was in an 11-year relationship. So my entire 20s were building a life with someone. But I will say, just like everyone's 20s, they were so pivotal in like the amount of growth that happens, right? I had a partner, which you're close to him as well, who we are so different in so many ways, and so a lot of there's just a lot of like maturity for my own personal journey, for my own like resilience, for my own kind of like, I really learned to protect my peace. And I really learned to like not let small things affect me. And I I'm very proud of that relationship. I still have what I would call a beautiful connection with that person.
Yeah.
There's nothing romantic about it. It's very respectful. It's to me that person will always be a family to me. That was my 20s, right? And in my 30s, it shortly after that, 4 months later, I was in a different relationship, and that was a relationship which I've mentioned before in previous episodes. That was my twin flame relationship,
Yeah.
which you got to see me go through.
Yeah.
And he's like the bookkeeper of that experience and of my life. Just because I feel like I lived a whole life with
Right.
him, this whole like last year and a half, like you've seen that it's been such a transformative experience for myself. So going into my 30s, I feel like I'm living a whole different life, to be honest with you, but I feel like I've evolved so much in a way that, like, in my 20s, it was very much, I was moving from a place of putting my relationship on like a pedestal, I would say, um, and putting that first, right? And that's kind of when I hit the most last relationship I've had. When I hit that relationship, it kind of taught me that I needed to put myself 1st, right? I was because the other thing is I was expecting things from my partnership that I also wasn't bringing to the table in certain parts of my life. So in general, I would say there's far more intention now in my 30s. I don't feel like I need to be in a relationship, right? It's about to be 7 months now since I've started the dating journey, right? As a 32-year-old man, I'm about to be 33 in a few days. But yeah, so it's been 7 months since I started dating again. I had to take a solid 8 months off to really be with self, and you've got to experience that. Like that was a big moment for me to do a lot of self healing and realize that there was traumas, like I've mentioned in previous episodes, and things that I needed to dive into so that I wasn't taking those things into the next relationship I end up being in. I would say dating right now in my 30s has been a beautiful experience. Like I hear a lot of people oppose that and say like you live in New York City, dating is difficult, or in general it's difficult to date in our community as gay men because it's very sex driven. But I honestly can say that when you move from a place of intention and clarity and you're able to articulate your needs along with your desires, you can attract some beautiful experiences. I would say, I was dating somebody for 3 months, which you knew about. Prior to that, I was dating somebody I went on 3 dates with somebody else. I got stuck in Pennsylvania with someone else for 5 days because of a snowstorm. But I would say that, I've attracted I've learned a lot about myself through those experiences, but they've all been beautiful experiences, and I'm really grateful for that. I don't know if you have any, personal take on that part
Of your life with that. I mean, other than we lived together when you were going through that twin flame experience, and listen, it was something that I'm as open minded as they come. I think we both are, and I had never heard this concept before. Until you brought it up, I had just known like, wow, this is someone that I've never seen you like this with somebody else when you're like in love with somebody, and I can see I saw the fruits of it in your life, of how it really transformed you, really from within. And then when that sort of separation happened, and it was more than I knew. It was heavy and it was real and it was quite substantial, because it was more than a normal breakup would have done to somebody. It really did transform you, and we had many late, almost like sleepless nights, just,
Tears.
talking. Yeah, about how this was making you feel. And then looking back at it now, I'm like, man, this really was something that, this relationship is something that really shaped you to who you are now. So I think if that hadn't happened, I don't think any of this would be happening right now if it wasn't for that. So
I agree.
it was amazing to witness. Yeah.
I agree. I want to go into the direction of, we kind of both brought up like there being some pressures in our community,
Yeah.
as gay men. So there's like a stereotype that gay dating is all about hookups, or casual flings. Do you think that's changing, or do you feel like men in our community are craving deeper connections? And I ask that because I can share my experience, but I'm all about like diving into my inner work, my spirituality, like aligning with my purpose to help others heal and stuff like that. So
Right.
my journey isn't always reflected on like what the actual community is like, right? And not to say that one is better than the other, because that's not a thing either. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah. I would like to think that that stereotype is changing. Whether I fully see it, 100% changing, I I think there's still some time for it to change if people want to change that about the gay community. Because listen, I feel like people, especially gay men, they can find a lot of comfort in the hookup culture aspect of the gay dating world. And listen, if that works for people and if they're doing it in a very healthy way and they're not hurting themselves or other people, and if they're not compromising their integrity while doing it, I think good for them. I feel like I'm not single. I'm no longer single, but when I was and I was dating, the times that I noticed like, oh, that I shouldn't have done that, or that felt like a very empty connection, was when I was going against my own sort of like morals and ethics and like principles, and oftentimes that would happen when we would rush into the sexual part of it, or when it was strictly a hookup thing. Because like you, I'm very much about, and I've learned this about myself, is that there needs to be an emotional and like spiritual connection and chemistry before the physical aspect is like fulfilling, because after a while, I think a lot of gay men can relate to this. You kind of become desensitized.
Right.
If it's like hookup, it's like you're putting in a lot of energy into this, and you end up not finding fulfillment in that after a while. So I think that I think it is changing, and for some gay men, I think that's just comes with us becoming, getting older now. And don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of gay men out there who are, well into their 30s, 40s, 50s, and all they want to do is hook up, but I think that just comes with maturing, is realizing that it's not all about the hookup culture. But from my own experience, when I moved here to New York City almost 2 years ago now, I'm a very social person. You know this. I put a lot of importance on friendships, and so I would meet guys, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is someone I can have a really cool like friendship with, and then like five questions into the hangout, it would be like, so like, what are you into? And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going now, And I wouldn't roll my eyes and be like, you know what, no. But I would politely say, if the conversation did quite, head there, then I would say, oh, by the way, this is, and I've had plenty of hangouts with people that I thought would be a really cool friend, and where the advance gets made, or there was a kiss gets like planted, an unexpected one, and I kind of kindly have to be like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I'll let you know if we can hang out again. Like this was, or with all due respect, this wasn't really what I was kind of looking for. I just really wanted a really cool like friend from this. So I think that stereotype is changing, but I do think that with certain demographics, that stereotype I think will always be there. And I don't think there's anything wrong in it. I think if you're doing it from a healthy place where you're not going against what you believe and you're not hurting somebody else, go for it. Is it for me? No. Even before I was in my relationship that I'm in right now, the hookup aspect of it just kind of got old to me, and I wasn't looking for that any longer.
So I would say for me, and this is just my opinion. To me, there's so many layers to that question, right? And to your point as well. So for me, this is just my opinion on like the overall question, and then I'll share a little bit of my experience. But for me, I think that yes, I think that there is a shift happening because I think in general, people are spirituality, self work, therapy, um, self improvement. These are things that are growing so much in our world right now, and they should be, right? I think that before you didn't see a lot. Like if you go back to our parents and stuff like that, they don't understand a lot of that, right? Somebody was super into spirituality back then, they were kind of seen as like, ooh,
Right.
And so now it's like, no, there's a sense of like really knowing yourself and really knowing your purpose or knowing how to make yourself happy. Like people are diving into that, right? So I think that yes, like overall as a world, like things are shifting because of awareness. People can say social media has its cons, but I think one of the pros is the visibility of things like that, right? The visibility of the different avenues you can take when it comes to self-development. Now I would say like again, there's so many layers to it. This isn't going to be for everyone. I'm not, and I don't judge it, and I'm very much like you. If that's what you like to do, cool. I was there at one point. I liked it at one point. Like I don't think I was a bad person. Like I don't think I was a negative person. But on that same note, I also know that now looking back, but it's taken me diving into that. Now looking back, I also know that because of traumatic experiences in my life, I was desensitized. I was kind of moving from a place of putting in, not having my priorities the way that, in a healthy way, right? For me, it was like physicality was far more on top than compatibility, right? And I think that happens in general, whether you're gay or straight. We're very much a physical, beauty driven world, right? It's all about what people consider beautiful in that time and whatnot. So, for me, again, I had my personal traumas, and I was at one point in my life into the whole hookup thing, but what I did recognize pretty early on was that like it was important for me to have a connection with somebody, very much like what you were saying, than to just dive into it physical. Some people can do that. I had in the astrology episode before this one. I'm a Cancer. I need some type of emotional connection, right? I need to see that, like, I'm the type of person that will like talk for a little bit, right? But on whether it's whatever app, right? I'll talk to somebody for a little bit before I even talk about hooking up. Not anymore. This was in the past, but I would talk to somebody for about, and I kind of want to see like, hey, how's your day? Oh, it was good. Da 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 da. How was yours? Like, I want to see how you speak about yourself, right? Because if you were like, oh, it sucked. Like, I'm just tired. I'm this and that. Those things, as a Cancer man, like I'm like, no, it's too negative for me. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't work for me. Like I want to kind of be emotionally excited to hook up with somebody right then. But as I I've evolved and learned, like you mentioned earlier, like connection's one thing, right? Chemistry is a whole different level. Like there was times where I would just hook up with somebody because of the size of their dick or
Right.
or whatever, like, or not necessarily just the size, but like the look of it, or like
Yeah.
um I would say I was a pretty open-minded person about body types and stuff like that. But just like if it was like a bearded man, a nice cock, a da 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 da, like that was enough for to get me excited. And like
Yeah.
they're not a negative person, right? At least from what I know through some conversation. But um I yeah, so I was putting very much like that physical part of it um ahead, and I feel like I've evolved to that place to understand like chemistry is a whole nother thing. Like
Right.
there's times that I've hooked up with people and I kind of just felt drained afterwards, or I kind of felt like like
Right.
like I really wasn't into it. But you
Right.
kind of have to you have to keep
Yeah.
going because you commit, right? Right.
Commit
Like
to the bit.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, so then there's chemistry, but then now like compatibility, you throw that in, and that's where it's like, I don't know, for even with just hooking up, like I think whether it's the whole top or bottom thing, or just how, I don't know, compatibility to me is very important to understand. Like, and I think that what I've observed is that people will start to kind of dive into like different types of kinks from a place of like, well, they experienced it and it was kind of hot, but they don't really know if they're into it.
Right.
But they'll kind of keep doing it. Right. And I feel like that's a compatibility thing, right? Because there's like, I mean, I'm going to get real here, right? There's like, I don't want somebody fucking like in my face. Like, I don't. And if you slap me hard, I'll probably slap you the fuck back. Like, I will. Like there's certain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
the compatibility is a thing. Like, it's not, I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of like going off in a different direction. So I would say, now that I've said all that, for me, it's really been, it's really shifted my priorities. My priority is far more connection, chemistry, compatibility over sex. So I was celibate for 10 months because I had to do a lot of sexual healing for myself, a lot of recognizing my traumas and really allowing myself to work through them. And coming back into it when I not lost, but when I finally intentionally chose to have sex with somebody, which was the person that I was seeing for 3 months. It was after a month. And I honestly feel like what I learned from myself, if I really want the relationship that I'm seeking, the type of connection that I'm seeking in somebody, it almost felt like, looking back, I don't even think I would do it that quick again. Because I felt like there are things that we have to think about, right? Dopamine, oxytocin, those are real things, guys. Those are chemicals that are activated in our brain through sex, through excitement, through the honeymoon phase, through they're feel-good chemicals that actually very much tend to what is the word? Like, not manipulate, but they tend to, help me out here.
They like strongly influence.
Yes, there you go. They strongly influence or can kind of like shift your actions based off of that feel goodness, right? And then you kind of find yourself later on kind of being like, oh, like the compatibility is not there in certain ways or whatever, right? And this is specifically if you're looking to be in a relationship with somebody. Listen, if you're looking to just hook up, do your thing.
Right.
Like, again, I have no judgment. I'm not looking for that though.
Right.
Right. And so this kind of goes back to the previous question, but in general, yeah, I think things have shifted in our world. And I think that gay men are also, another point would be that before, that's kind of what our community was. That's how, like, in a lot of ways, like now younger generations are growing up and they're able to live in a world where they can honestly see themselves. And I say honestly because it's a pretty big deal. Um, whether you're straight or gay, like understand that it's a pretty beautiful big deal that like kids can grow up and they can gay kids, queer kids, LGBTQ plus kids, they can see themselves with the white picket fence, with married, with the career, with they
Right.
see themselves in a life that was kind of built for heterosexuality,
Right.
and that's kind of how this world has ran for many years, and it wasn't like that for those of us
Mm-hmm.
that were anything else but that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
it is a bit of big, beautiful, big all of it deal. And so I think
Yeah.
that that's part of what the younger generation is coming in and shifting. Right? They're not all
Mm-hmm.
about going to the gay cruises, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the gay cruises, the gay partying, the gay before, if that's what you would do to be in our community, that's what
Right.
you would attend these events. Nothing, and I say these events in a beautiful way. I'm not saying in a stereotypical way, but you would attend whatever event, and that's where you would feel home. You feel like you could be
Mm-hmm.
you, right? Like now, the younger generations are growing up in a world where just be you, right?
Right.
It's not everywhere, but I honestly do think that we're the world is becoming a better place and we're moving in that direction.
I think so. Yeah. Um, and I kind of want to touch on something really quick. I think that the hookup culture in our community stems from the sort of like historically us being oppressed as gay men, and not to mention like gay men of color, right? Queer people of color.
Right.
I think that being like marginalized and oppressed so much, which was like our visibility was taken away from us, and it was you know it was criminal for us to just love who we wanted. So I think that when we were able to kind of take that back a little bit, we really kind of like dove into the deep end and we're like, well, we're just gonna love whoever we want and we're gonna express that attraction and we're gonna express that, you know, how in whichever way we want, which is what I think kind of like you turned into hookup culture. But and listen, hookup culture isn't even in the straight community. You know,
Right.
it's not exclusive to us. But I think that, like you said earlier, that it things are changing now, but I think it's also because how you said that visibility has almost like changed now. You know, it's whereas before, I think that as gay men, we were sort of like, okay, you're allowed to, like, you can be gay in public now, right?
Mm.
Forever ago. And I still have friends now that are like, yeah, so I went on a date with this guy and, you know, I didn't care that we weren't at a gay bar. Like, I was like holding his hand. And in my mind, I'm like, cool. Like, I see what you're saying, but we've been so conditioned to where there's modern day gay men who only feel safe going on a date with another gay man at like in a gay bar. And you know, why can't you do that in a regular bar? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
All that to say that I think that's changing too. So not only is that visibility being given back to us, but I think we're also changing that perception of ourselves now too. And we've gone from, oh well, we can, you know, we can let our flag fly freely in public, and we can identify in that, but it's also changed into, well, why can't I have a kid and a white picket fence, and why can't I have a husband and me be monogamous and be homeowners and just be an boring old married couple, which I think as we mature, like sometimes like it's like,
Sounds
listen, I
nice.
hear you, like I get it, like that sounds kind of like I'm with you know what I mean,
Right.
like getting home to like your husband making food and, you know, just like falling asleep watching fucking Handmaid's Tale. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's an allure to that, I think. And I think that's why maybe like hookup culture might be shifting, is because we're able to go, oh, okay, like, cool. Like this can be our life now, and that's fulfilling and that's beautiful too. You know.
I agree. I'm kind of gonna. You said a few things that kind of reminded me of. So we attempted a podcast about a year ago. It was a group podcast, but it didn't work out for its reasons. But we kind of spoke on our stories in the first episode. And one of the things I mentioned was I know several men who have come out like in their late 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s. And it's honestly an experience that once was, for many experience, volatile, for many experience, like highly judged, for many, it's scary. Like, having conversations with men who come out later in life, like, it's like, you've built this life, right? And it's like, well, any of my male friends talk to me, right? Because it's like, you were with the straight guys and stuff. Like, will any of these people talk to me and whatnot? And one of the common things that, they've shared with me is that, like, they really feared that people were going to shut them out. People that they cared about were going to shut them out, and they didn't. And they accepted them how they were. Like, because of going back to the awareness, whether it's social media, whether it's, entertainment, whatever, like, there being more movies, right? There's not enough films about, gay men kind of just having a normal life, right? But, for a while it was like HIV/AIDS stories, it was like violent stories, there's a lot more beautiful stories coming out for, out in the entertainment industry, but it is having the awareness of living in a world now where self-development, where acceptance, where all of those things are a thing now. Like, it's beautiful that somebody could come out. So we always hear about red flags, but what are some green flags that you personally were looking for in a man?
I think that's one thing that helped me with my perception of, or rather my perspective on dating. I think it's easy for a lot of us to look at all like the negatives that, like, this is a red flag, this is a red flag, that, the list is like, can be infinitely long. But one thing that helped me was, okay, why don't we look at some of the positive attributes that I want them to have? Identifying those helped tremendously. To name a few, it was somebody, I know we shared this one, we share many of them, but like, someone that's going to inspire me, not somebody that is going to, that I can see and I can look at, and I can look at their life, and I can look at the way that they speak to me and the way that they're present, if they inspire me to be a better part of myself, a better version of me, if they inspire me to keep accountability within myself, that's a huge green flag to me. If I find somebody who is secure within themselves, not just physically, but internally secure.
Right.
One of the big sort of like moments that, and I'd known this, but experiencing it like in real time was so beautiful with my boyfriend. When Ahab first met him, we went out to have lunch. And I was just quiet the whole time. They were just talking back and forth, and the fact that he was so open and he was answering you so candidly and so chill, you know what I mean? And so relaxed and so very, very, very present and just secure in what he was saying, and almost in a very like just as a matter of fact kind of way. You could throw him a question and he would be like, well, this, that was a huge green flag, because there wasn't any like anxiety on his part. There wasn't any. Should I wait for this? Or is that okay?
Sorry, we have a co-host, which is the
Mount
ambulance.
Zion.
Yeah, Mount Sinai's ambulances. No, I kind of laughed because I thought of the one time that I had you meet somebody,
right?
And they were like.
And listen, guys, we were asking, in our opinion, we were asking very like normal, like softball questions. And listen, I hate to make it sound like we're like vetting each other's like, partners or potential partners. Because we don't go into it with that attitude of like,
No.
this is my fucking best friend. If you like hurt him, I'll kill you.
Never.
No,
We know
that's
each other though.
right. So just making conversation and asking the other person questions that we know are important to us
Right.
without having like a list of what we're gonna say, just having a full, like, just an open
It's organic.
conversation, right? An organic conversation is so important to us, right? And so he was having that with my boyfriend, and I thought it went very well. And so the way that he was answering was it was a turn on, and it was such a green flag within itself, because he was able to just simply answer, and he had so much integrity with how he was answering, that I was a huge green flag with him. And another one was, I know you'd asked him, how asked him, was like, oh, so what's something that like Eddie is like bringing to you that you feel like that he provides that you otherwise kind of like don't have, um and his answer I loved, which was, well, I'm whole and complete on my own, and so is Eddie. He's like, I and I want to build something like that with him. I want to take both of our lives, and build something together. But the fact that he started off with, well, he's not bringing something to me that I don't already have. I'm whole on my own. And in that moment, I was like, all right, everybody leave this room
Right now.
right now. I'm gonna marry him, instantly. But that was a huge green flag. Just an example, for the question. Just
Right.
an example of how I mean is that, having somebody that realizes that they are perfect and whole and complete on their own, and they are divinely equipped to go through life,
Right.
because if I were to see the opposite of that, and if it were to be somebody who's like, well, I lack this and this and this and this, and they bring me that, and without them I couldn't be, like, no, it's like we have the capability. I think the universe, I think God has equipped us with everything that we need, and when somebody realizes that, it's a game changer.
Right.
What are some of your green flags?
I would say so. Green flags as far as like in dating, right? Because I think that becomes something bigger in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But with dating, I would say green flags would be somebody who can have like a full on conversation, right? So if I usually introduce myself first, and it's like, hello, with their name, I'm Javier. Thank you so much for connecting, or thank you so much for liking my photo.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you're having a good whatever. How's your how's your day going? It's usually like like 3 sentences or so, right?
Yeah.
And it's if somebody responds like, hey, okay, I'm not supposed to be focusing on red flags, sorry guys, but basically like like somebody who can have a conversation, who can
Right.
flow. I do look for how people speak about themselves,
Right.
if somebody's positive, that's a turn on to me.
Yeah.
Not a hard on, but a turn on, right?
Right.
Now in terms of like hold on, let me still focus on dating because my head wants to kind of go into expanding on the same question. Yeah, so it would be somebody who's conversational, somebody who has a positive outlook on things, right? I understand that not everybody's going to be as positive as me,
Sure.
and there may be areas in my life where I'm not that positive all the time. You know what I'm saying? But I do very much live in that space. And somebody who has goals, like somebody who,
Right.
I love that you love where you're at right now, but what's coming? Like what's next? Like I don't. That's just again another turn on. Like, oh, that's cool. Like you see yourself even further,
Yeah.
right? And that I like. Now going back to when I wanted to expand on the question, what would you say are like? Because now I feel like it can go into the more relation aspect. What are 3 of the most important things that you would say are a turn on or a green flag, but also as you're in the process of not just like first connecting with somebody, dating, but as you're moving through the understanding of compatibility, that whole process, right? What are three important things for you in someone else?
But you mean
So I'll go first.
okay?
So for me, three of the most, whether you want to call it green flag, turn ons, are somebody who is considerate.
Mm-hmm.
Consideration, you've taught me, is one of the highest forms of love.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody who has their own, is on their own journey of like, it doesn't necessarily have to be spirituality the way that I explore spirituality, but who has their own, connection with God, the universe, and who's like very much, when somebody says, I see a therapist or stuff like that, that is beautiful to me, right? They're on a self-development journey, right?
There's awareness there.
Right, right. Because at the end of the day, I've also learned like I dive into that's my life. Like, and not only as just a human, but as a life coach, as a spiritual life coach. Like this self-development, the inner work, the becoming the best version of yourself and the healthiest version of yourself, and not just in health, but in wellness as well, is so important to me. And you know me, I'm constantly looking to better myself.
Right.
That I absolutely need somebody who they don't have to be as into it as me or whatever, but who is evolving, right? Because I'm constantly evolving.
Right.
And then the last one would be somebody who's not conflictive, right? Like I've mentioned in the previous episode, like I can't do road rage. I can't come home to somebody who is going to drain me because they're pessimistic or because they're unhappy.
Yeah.
Right. I think that we all have reasons, and life will throw us through experiences that can make us feel low. But I myself have no interest in wanting to like have somebody carry that. I want to figure out how I can understand the low and get out of the low. You know what I'm saying? And it's the difference of like my partner coming home and me being like, oh, this happened to me. I just can't right now. Like I get sometimes you need space, but I think that it's a difference of that to like, okay, this happened to me. To be honest with you, I'm like not in the best place right now. I could use your support in this way, whether it's with some space or whatever. And I guess that's a communication thing too. But people want to talk about or seek good communication in another partner. That's going to look different for everyone.
Right.
It really does. It looks communication. Good communication is going to be it's more of a subjective thing, right? I understand that there's such thing as bad communication, which is people who just run away from their feelings and da 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 da.
Right.
Anyway, circling back around, number one is somebody who is considerate.
Yeah, right.
Number two is somebody who is on their own journey of healing, journey of awareness. And number three would be somebody who really like seeks peace.
Yeah.
Right? Like peace. They have an understanding of what inner peace does for them.
Right.
And they seek it. They seek more of it because peace, like anything else, is an ongoing experience. It's an ongoing, expansive experience.
I love that.
Me too. And I'm glad I recorded that.
That's great. I think, okay, so for me, it would be somebody who is willing to explore. And I mean that in the sense of somebody who is willing to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. You know, I think somebody who is willing to not stay confined. And I understand that our comfort is a big defense mechanism, and it's a security blanket for so many of us, right? However, I think it's a double-edged sword because we can miss out a lot in life because of our comfort zone. And if you're with somebody who's willing to nudge, like push their comfort zone a little bit, I think to me that's a huge green flag, and that's a huge turn on, I one thing that since my boyfriend and I got together was that he was so willing to meet my friends. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I've known plenty of people, I've been in relationships where it's like, well, like I was hoping it would just be you and I, and before you know it, that one hangout where it's gonna be just him and I turns into like two, three, four, five, and then before you know it, it's been months, and we've only been hanging out with just each other, and we haven't been
Right.
exploring each other's like circle of loved ones. Another important thing that I've realized is extremely important and valuable, really, um, to what I need in a relationship is somebody who is considerate. And like how you said earlier, I always say that, consideration is one of the highest forms of love. I think that it's easy for us to say we love someone or something, but how do you express that love? In my
Mhm.
book, it's showing your consideration. It can be something small as, you know, babe, I know you don't like this particular, I don't know, veggie, so I made you your own, I made you your own little like tray of it over here or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Or something as high as, I know it's my day off today and I kind of wanted just to chill, but I know it's important for you to us to go do this or to whatever. It can take many forms and many shapes, right?
Right.
But I think showing up and being considerate for the other person and showing uh acts of selflessness is really important to me. Also communication, and not just communication as in uh uh tell me where you are, tell me what you're doing. That's not what I mean. What I mean is communicate to me how you are feeling. Communicate to me if I did something wrong in your eyes. Communicate to me how something is making you feel, because I've been in relationships where my my ex-partner just assumed that I should know what's the matter. Because listen, I have lots of shortcomings and I don't always show up to the best of my abilities, never intentionally, but how can I fix that unless you tell me?
Right.
Um yeah, I would say that those sort of like are some of the big non-negotiables for me that I really look for in somebody when I'm in a relationship with them, because I think without those, um, for me personally, there's no way it can be fruitful. You know.
Mhm. Right. So I kind of like mention a lot of my journey, a lot of like the spirituality that goes in my journey, of just connection in general, right? But as we talk about being with a romantic partner, um, just to get your take on it, because I always love how you kind of expand me in different ways. How would you say spirituality plays a role in your approach to, or in anybody's approach to dating and
Mhm.
relationships?
For me, it's a big role in every aspect of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it is a big role on every aspect of my life, it in turn has to play an important, significant role in my romantic life, right? In
Right.
my relationship. Um, Now, listen, I don't mean you have to be, you know, pious and devout, and you have to wake up every morning and align your chakras and tap into a great unknown. Like, no, that it takes its shape in a multitude of different ways, right? But plain and simple, starting off by somebody who is aware and knows that we're not just tiny little ants on like a floating rock. You know what I mean? I think there needs to be that recognition of there's something greater than this, and this is just momentary, and I want somebody who realizes that they are a spiritual being having a human experience and not the other way around.
Right.
Because that's really shaped my life for the better, for the betterment in my life, and I it doesn't need to be somebody who has the exact same school of thought as I do, but somebody who is, again, they're on that awareness journey, somebody who knows that there's more than just what we can touch and what we can see and what we can smell. Somebody that knows that there is more to life than this. And not just that, not just somebody who realizes there's more to life, but somebody who also realizes and believes that life is beautiful,
Right.
right? And the universe and God, they want to give us the desires of our heart more than we even want them. And I think somebody who is, we always say the term tapped in, somebody who is tapped
Right.
in that sense, it plays a huge role for me, because I think that translates into, again, it's this universal umbrella concept, and it translates into everything. I think somebody who is tapped in is then going to be somebody who acts at it with compassion. I think somebody who is tapped
Right.
in is somebody who is going to be considerate, is somebody who is going to listen twice and speak once. It's somebody that's going to not be judgmental. It's somebody that's going to be a hard worker, somebody who's going to have strong ethics, somebody who's going to have a good moral compass.
Right.
And those are the things that outlast what we look like, the physique, who's it's going to outlast the hookup culture, if you want to go back to it. it's
Right.
it's going to outlast finances. It's going to outlast all of those things.
And I think, like, like we spoke about, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be everything on that list, right? Because I think one big thing to recognize is, like, even those that are tapped in are on, if you're still here, if you're here on earth, like, you clearly have lessons to still work
Right,
on,
we're still
right? And we
human.
all, yeah, we all have different
Yeah,
avenues, right? You can be tapped in and judgmental. I've seen it,
of course, of
right? You
course.
can be tapped in, and and things like that. But like, one of the things you said, into the question is like, how does it play a big part? Is like, who sees life as something beautiful.
Hmm.
Like, to me, what spirituality does for someone or for a relationship, and this isn't that I'm saying that everybody should be spiritual. I'm not saying that. I think that you do you, right?
Hmm.
That's specifically for the listeners, but what I will tell you is that spirituality, having your relationship with spirituality, gives you the gift of gratitude.
Hmm.
It gives you the gift of gratitude to be grateful for. If you're grateful for, the water that bathes you, to the water you get to drink, to the food that you get to eat, to the person that's right next to you.
Right.
I mean, it honestly, I think spirituality plays a big part in how beautiful and how a relationship can bloom in ways that you don't even realize,
Right.
that in ways that expand you, that will expand your peace, that will expand your joy, and that will expand what life is. And right, and we don't, there is the knowing that, like, we are whole and we're complete. But man, when you can tie in this, like, greater purpose, this knowing that, you know we're bigger than just this.
Hmm.
It allows your life to honestly be bigger than this. And one of the things that, um one of the we were supposed to do that group podcast that I mentioned earlier, he would say, one of the things that he said was, every mind is its own world, right?
Hmm.
And I think that is absolutely true, right?
Right.
I can tell you what spirituality has done to me, but baby, it's going to do something completely different for you, but for you,
Right.
right?
Right.
Oh, I love it. And that's kind of like, that's where we're so
Right.
passionate about, like, diving into everything, because we're very similar in how it is our whole life,
Right.
right? And or it's something that we harmonize with everything, every part of our life. And it really, this is one of the most beautiful people, one of the most joyful people, and one of the most grounded people that I know.
Thank you.
and
Likewise.
and he inspires me, like I said, every single day. So if you could have, or you could share one piece of advice about love or any type of relationships, what would it be?
That's a great question. Um, the piece of advice that I would share is to learn to let go and learn to give into how much beauty the universe can bring you. I think sometimes we get hyper fixated on a certain outcome,
Right.
to where that's all we can ever think about. And if it's not that, then we don't want it. And I think there's a healthy way of doing that, but I think that more oftentimes than not, when we, when we let go of that, we're able to receive way much more than we could imagine. If I have something in my hands and I'm asking for you to give me something else, I'm not in a position of receiving because my hands are full of things that I maybe don't need to be holding on to.
Right.
So if I let go of them and my hands are wide open with nothing inside of them, I'm open to receiving like an unimaginable amount of beauty from you, from life, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's gotten me to where I am today. And it's I think I've done okay and I really enjoy it. And so
Right. Just to piggyback on that, I mean, honestly, if there's anything that, this last year, almost year and a half has taught me is like surrender to what's yours.
yeah.
Surrender to what's yours because it's already yours, right?
That's right.
Speaking of spirituality, these desires that we have, right? Not everybody wants the same things. Not everybody needs the same things. Not everybody desires the same things. But those desires are there because they're already yours. It's knowing that they're yours and allowing yourself to become the version that is prepared to receive what is yours. And through that, you got to just surrender to life. And another thing that spirituality gives you is the capacity to be able to know, to find peace in that, because that's scary.
Yeah, of course.
That's scary, but if you can know that it's already yours and it's bigger than this, and these desires are not just there for to be waved in your face, but they're there because they're yours. Like, it is life. I mean, relationships can flourish in ways that you have no idea. Like, and you can become versions of yourself that just will blow your mind. I'm guilty of that. And he's guilty of that. And to be able to see each other on each other's journeys.
Yeah.
And to be able to support each other and to sometimes guide each other is truly special. And that's where, again, like, this podcast dives into being built for love, but love is all of the connections and relationships that you have in your life. And it's a oneness.
Yeah. I agree. That's beautiful.
You're beautiful. Anything else to add before we start to close out for our listeners? I think
that's kind of it. At least for now, because we'll talk about anything and everything for hours.
I'm like, I have to cut this and make sure that it's a certain timing and stuff like that. So I agree, and this is definitely not the first and last. I mean, this is the first, but not the last time you'll see Eddie on this podcast, because I feel like he is somebody that is amazing. He has an amazing voice, as you guys obviously, I think so. As you guys can obviously hear, to be able to share a message, and he has a lot to share. So this isn't the last time you'll see or hear him. But yeah, this conversation has meant so much to me, and it does mean so much to me, not just because of what we've shared, but because of who I get to share it with. And Eddie, thank you so much for your heart, for your wisdom, and the way you show up so authentically in every space that this guy walks into, including this one. And to everyone listening, I hope you felt the love, the learning, and maybe even a little nudge to reflect on your own journey. If this episode moved you in any way, please remember, share it with a friend, share it with a loved one, subscribe, and connect with us on social media, as well as YouTube, which is a form of social media. But as always, remember that love isn't something we chase, it's something we're built for. See you guys later.